welcome to episode 3 of the Behind Closed Doors podcast. We're actually quite happy I'm behind closed doors with the storm outside. How you doing, Ryan?
Aye, no, I totally echo that. I thought my doors and windows were going to blow in last night. It was quite scary. Been scared to take the dog a walk today. I was thinking if I take him for a walk, I might need to attach dumbbell to his harness or something. But aye, no, doing really good, mate. Another another Sunday, another big win for the girls yesterday. So in good spirits again. So aye, doing really good. Been looking forward to coming on and recording tonight's episode. What about you?
Yeah, good weekend as well. With the football that survived, obviously. And I won my first frame at snooker as well, which is a big thing for me. So I've been playing, I think, nearly 3 months. So I've missed a few weeks at times, but as you know, extremely tough game
Aye.
to pick up and learn, and it's like so much different to playing pool A. So, it's I'm pretty chuffed with that. I beat my brother-in-law, who's actually really good. So, he did beat me in the next frame though, so I didn't get two in a row. So I've still got a bit of work to
Next time.
do, but yeah, next time, yeah, totally. But
We've got the new Stephen Hendry here.
well, we'll see about that. I was hearing Tony Watt. I think his biggest break is about 8, and I think mine's is about 5. So, I don't even think I'm good enough to beat Tony Watt at the moment. But
Progression.
yeah, I'll keep working on it. But yeah, good weekend. So obviously, the weather's been bonkers again, and I'm surprised we even had games to go to on Saturday. Um, so yeah, a big one for you, a big Saturday for you.
Aye, and see, to be honest, it was a bit of a last minute decision to go. I was toying whether, obviously, it was all ticket, wasn't pay at the gate. I was kind of toying whether to go or not. Just with the front that Falkirk were on, what was it, 26 games unbeaten, something ridiculous
Yeah,
like
about
that.
that.
The,
Yeah,
the only unbeaten team in the country. I just sort of the whole sort of build up to it. I was kind of saying to myself, we've got no chance, and be an easy win for Falkirk. But then, to be honest, as the sort of weekend got closer, and um, obviously there's been a lot of talk about the pitch. No getting away from it, the pitch was in a horrendous condition, but at the end of the day, both teams had to play on it. And just after seeing the pitch and stuff, just had a wee feeling that Falkirk used to playing on their slick Astro and that, and they'll no like coming to New Dundas Park when the pitch is sort of that bad. So I had a wee bit of feeling. Seemed to be a wee bit of a buzz about the town in the morning as well. So I thought, you know what, I'm just going to get a ticket and go along. So I went along, and massive win for the Rosy Posy, and a big cup shock, which I'm sure we'll come on to as well, cup shocks. But aye, brilliant. A massive crowd there. I think it was over 2,000. Falkirk obviously brought a really good support. So Rose took an early lead. Had a few chances to actually be 2 or 3-0 up quite early doors. So it was a bit frustrating. And then obviously Falkirk going equalise. So it's one of the ones where you're thinking you've not taken your chances, so you're going to get punished. But and then second half, again, it was just, again, the conditions were just making it sort of difficult for both teams. And it looked like it was going to go into extra time, potentially penalties. And then delighted for Bradley Barrett, who's a local boy, popping up with a winner in stoppage time. And aye, scenes in the pub after as well. The players and
yeah,
the manager and the coaching staff were out in Bonnyrigg after it. So really, really special day, special night, and great for the club to get into the fifth round for the first time in their history.
yeah. No, it's a great achievement, and I think after the other week there, where Edinburgh City were robbed in the last minute with what was never a penalty. I think it was only right that
A bit of karma.
they would eventually get beat. Do you know what I mean? So I'm happy it was the Rose that obviously got the job done, and what a tie that's lined up for Bonnyrigg.
Aye, Aberdeen away. I was hoping we were going to get Celtic and Rangers away. Just
Mm.
like financially, for one thing, like would be massive. more than likely that would be on the telly as well. We know what, like, um, the I can't remember what they're called now. It's no BT and whatever the station always picks up the Celtic Rangers games. They always seem to pick those games. So
Yeah,
chances are it would be on the telly. So financially it would be massive. But don't get me wrong, there's a good chance that the Aberdeen game might be on telly as well. But even if it's not, like, still it's still a cracking tie. And coming up against a Premiership side, so obviously I'm sure everyone at the club will be under no illusions. It's going to be an extremely difficult tie, and one, if we want to get through, going to have to play extremely well. Hope Aberdeen have maybe an off day and maybe get a wee bit of luck as well. But to be honest, out of all the ties that we could have got, it's probably like it's one that we could potentially go up there and fancy ourselves to get a wee shock. Obviously, Clyde played Aberdeen on the Friday night. Aberdeen got through that 2-0. Clyde were obviously at home, but I didn't watch the entire game, but they did create one or two wee chances before Aberdeen has scored. So um, obviously, we know cup shocks and Aberdeen go hand in hand
yeah,
with
yeah,
the
totally.
Barville game last season. But now one to really look forward to for the club, and whatever happens, it's just a great achievement getting to that stage, and everyone should just enjoy it.
Yeah, no, totally.
What about
Just
you?
as I say, you know,
Sorry,
make
mate.
the most of it.
Aye, exactly. What about you, mate? What games were you at the weekend?
So yeah, it ended up just being a one game week for me, which is, as you know, quite rare. So
Aye,
it was kind of good to have a break from going to loads of games, but yeah, but it couldn't be really helped with the weather, and we had, like, frost at the start of the week and then heavy winds and rain by the end of it. So no great, but we obviously went along to Ainsley Park again. Spartans, big occasion for them, playing at home against Hearts, and it was a a pretty good game, to be
mhm,
honest. On paper, before the match, you probably thought Hearts would have probably won quite comfortably, at least 3-0 or something. But the news came through pretty early that Shankland was nowhere to be seen. Apparently, he'd fell ill, which
convenient.
I'm not convinced by. I'm sure he's probably at another end of the country. But yeah, when that came in, it kind of got me thinking. I was like, they obviously rely on him quite a lot for the goals and stuff, and
Mhm.
that's it was a big loss for them. But yeah, when the game started, it was pretty one-sided. Hearts were dominating a lot of possession, but Spartans were really, really good defensively. They had a really good structure. The back four were absolutely solid. And although Hearts had a lot of possession, they didn't really cause a lot of threat. And any threat they did have, Blair Carswell was more than capable of taking care of it. So they got the opening goal through a free header, which I could barely see. So as you know, it was a big attendance. There was about 3,500. I
Aye,
think it was maybe 3,300. I don't know, something like that. I was not in the stand, so I was like standing. I was standing behind the goals, and if you've stood at Ainsley Park, if you're not at the front, if you're maybe two or three rows back, you literally can't see anything. So it was, it was hard to see anything. So I thought it was a free header. Hearts take the lead. Um, but Spartans were, they went in 1-0 down half time. Didn't by any means look out of it. They just hadn't really had an opportunity up front. And then the game, as the game goes on, Hearts have more and more possession, but they're starting to make mistakes. They're starting to get frustrated, and that's where Spartans started to have a bit of belief going forward. And they had one really good chance in the first half, and Callum Booth hit a shot from outside the box, and Craig Gordon pulled off, one of his kind of textbook saves. Second half, I never saw that goal coming. It was Callum Booth, kind of laid it back, and then the boy Cragen just absolutely
aye, what a
smashes
strike.
it ace. So I just that's some goal. That's one goal that'll be, in their history forever. I don't think anyone will forget that. And at least I had a pretty good view of that goal when the ball came back and I saw the ball go. I was like, that's even a keeper as tall as Craig Gordon, he had absolutely no chance with that. So just, it goes 1-1, and I think, you know what, like Spartans could, they've got a chance here to at least take the game into extra time and make Hearts work for it, or at least they've got a chance at, beating them. And time went on, and like Spartans looked to be honest, looked the better side, eh? They brought on Cammy Russell, fresh pair of legs, and he was absolutely ripping it up in the wing, eh? And Hearts were starting to struggle a wee bit, and they needed a last minute header. I think it was Frankie Kent. Again, it was another free header, unfortunately, and that was it. But I think it was about 92nd minute or something. So, um, uh, a late scare, for Hearts, and they had to work hard for it. But that is some performance, by the way, from Spartans. To think, obviously they were low in league last season, and I know that they beat Dundee United in the League Cup before, and they put out Arbroath in that, but that was an incredible performance. Defensively, they were solid. They were really well organised. They were well disciplined, and there's no shame in losing 2-1 to Hearts. So that they done extremely well, and I think that's definitely another thing they can add to their history around obviously dealing with that big crowd. And just another shout out, for Spartans. They had a lot of volunteers, obviously, to help them accommodate such a large crowd, and they were absolutely fantastic. So they've obviously have people who come out and help them and do a lot for the club, give up their time and stuff, and to deal with a crowd that big, which they're not used to, because they might get, I don't know, 300 or 400 sometimes. I don't know, when they play at home in the league. When you get talking like 10 times that, and you've got the BBC there and everything. I thought they were really, really well organised, and they dealt with it well. So, fair play to them. So, but yeah,
I
I
know I
don't think
was
there's any complaints for the Spartans fans.
aye, no, absolutely. I was impressed with them. I think you summed it up perfectly. They defended really well. The goal that you can see was unfortunate. It's just a momentary lapse in concentration. Boy switches off, free header, goal. But I think if you had said to Dougie Samuel before the game, listen, you'll go in at halftime 1-0 down, still well in the tie. He probably would have been quite happy with that. But Spartans, they struggled to kind of stamp their authority on the game in the first half, and get their attacking players like Dishington and Armstrong and Bradley White, play Henderson into the game. But second half, as you said, was a wee bit more open, and that goal from Craigan was an absolute belter. And
Yeah,
to beat a keeper like Craig Gordon, I know he's obviously just coming back for a really serious injury, but he still showed what he's capable of with that save from Callum Booth. So it needs to take a special strike to beat a keeper his calibre, and it certainly was that. But to be honest, it's a dull one for Spartans losing it so late on, but I'm sure it's one that they'll be proud of.
yeah, definitely. But yeah, so it was obviously, it was a good one to go to. So obviously there were other games in the Scottish Cup. Uh, we can probably talk about our predictions first. So we weren't far off getting a double, were we?
Aye, we weren't
Pretty
too far.
close.
I mentioned obviously that I quite fancied Rafe, and the thing that put me off back in Airdrie was the Craig Levine factor. But I got that one wrong. But fair play, you got that one right. You had faith in Rhys McCabe and his men, and the Diamonds went and done it. So brilliant result for them. Um, I'm trying to I forget who they got in the next round again, but I think it was Hearts, wasn't it? It was Hearts they got. So
Yeah, that's
um,
right. Yeah.
nice reward for them. And to be honest, like if they can go and cause an upset against Hearts, brilliant for Airdrie, and it's just going to keep uh, raising Rhys McCabe's stock as well. But we weren't far off with a double. Weren't far off at all. But there was one or two wee surprises in there.
Yeah. So if we move on to the non-league clubs, maybe start with the big one, I guess.
Aye.
Obviously, Bucky Thistle had the tricky task of travelling to Parkhead, and I watched that game on TV, and I wasn't expecting Celtic to put out a full strength team for that. It was fair play, like what an experience for Bucky players, playing against, Kyogo and all
Aye,
those guys, but it wasn't really. They didn't really have much of a chance. And I thought maybe first 25 minutes they done very well. It was 0-0. 25 minutes
aye,
in is brilliant. But you kind of knew like once the first one went in, it was just going to be a shooting gallery. And
exactly.
yeah, I felt sorry for them. It went like 5-0, and it's just we've seen this before. It was kind of like if you look at Celtic, they were kind of like a cat. They were just kind of playing with their prey before they kill it. Do you know what I mean? You just
Aye,
you just knew they were going to be, uh, kind of offloading on them, and 5-0. Still it's a great day out for them, and just hopefully they all got home all right because then obviously the trains got pure cancelled
aye.
from like 7 p.m., didn't they? So,
Well, I was so it was obviously on the Sunday, and I
mm,
was up in Forfar on the Sunday with the girls, as I said, and we were actually really fortunate that our kickoff was 12 o'clock. It meant we were leaving to go back down the road at like back at 2, 3 o'clock, and we I think we hit Dundee, and the rain just started coming down, and the wind,
yeah,
like the conditions for driving were absolutely brutal. You could barely see when you were driving, so for them to have to go all the way back up to the north of the country in conditions like that, no ideal. But I the game itself, you took the words out of my mouth. I thought first 20, 25 minutes, obviously without really causing Celtic any problems, they rode the luck a wee bit. I think was maybe a VAR decision in their potential penalty, but I think it was offside. Um, but once the first one went in, you knew that it was kind of just they were gonna fly in after that. But to be fair, like going to Celtic Park and shipping five is like Celtic do that to Premiership teams. So
yeah, totally.
so it's no disgrace. And obviously the boy for Bucky, I can't remember who it was. Admittedly, I had one eye on the game, and I was doing like obviously having just got down the road, I was still tweeting stuff about our game up in Forfar. So I had one eye on the game and one eye on the laptop. But I seen Guy for Bucky went through 1-on-1 with Joe Hart. Obviously, if he had scored that, it's not going to have any bearing on the result ultimately. But just in terms of like a moment, it would have been really special if he could have put that away. But I'm sure the Bucky fans and the players as well, and everyone connected with the club enjoyed the experience. It's not often that they'll be able to say that they played at Celtic Park, so fair play to them. But it was going to take something extremely special for them to get in from that game.
Yeah, totally. But yeah, as you say, maybe once in a lifetime for some of those players, eh? So
Exactly.
top notch. Obviously with the Highland Rangers derby, the Brora Cove game being called off and postponed. That'll be played on Tuesday night, I believe.
It's actually been
Um,
postponed again.
has it?
I
Oh,
seen it.
really?
I seen it earlier on today.
Yeah.
The pitch is waterlogged, I think, so it's postponed again, I believe.
There you go. So yeah, that won't be happening. So the only other non-league team that was playing was Broomhill FC, and they had an awkward trip up to Inverness Cali Thistle. So that game, by the scoreline, they're playing a half decent championship team, a decent team on their day, especially at home. And obviously they lost 4-0, but took until the 45th minute before Inverness opened the scoring there, and um, I think it's again you really can't take anything away for the achievement of Broomhill getting to the fourth round, the Scottish Cup after all they've been through in the last everyone knows about the changes and stuff, and I think they've done themselves proud, and it's a great achievement for any non-league together, but certainly for them, I think they've more than proved the doubters wrong this season. That's something else, isn't it?
100%. Again, similar to like the Bucky one, for like the fans and the players and everyone connected with the club, it's probably no one that they're not expecting to go up there and win it. it's just about just enjoying the occasion. And if a cup shock happens, then unbelievable. But I'm sure when they were coming down the road after that, none of them would have been disappointed. Like you said, it took Inverness best part of 45 minutes to actually break them down and score. So they only went in 1-0, similar to Spartans against Hearts, only went 1-0 into the break, 1-0 down, sorry. So at that point, you're still well in the cup tie. So if I'm the Broomhill manager or any of the players, I'm probably delighted at that point, because you can go out in the second half and you've still got something to play for. It's not as if like the tie is over and done with at half time. I did notice that they got a man sent off just after half time, which maybe contributed to the scoreline. Obviously, if they didn't get the man
Yeah.
sent off, can they maybe keep the game a bit tight going into the last 15-20 minutes and potentially nick something? You never know. It's ifs and buts, but aye, at the end of the day, great achievement, like you said, for them to get to where they got to. Given that everything that's gone on at the club, they've obviously had to massively rebuild in the summer. I don't think there's any players from last season still there.
No,
So it's
no,
a
no.
massive rebuild for Stephen Swift. Someone who's obviously really familiar with the club and brought good players in. But brilliant for them. Really, really happy for Broomhill, who've taken obviously a lot of stick over the last sort of 6 months or so. So again, just nothing expected from that game from them. So just it sounds like by all accounts they've went out and given a good account of themselves, and that's all you can ask for, really.
Yeah, totally. And obviously, with Inverness progressing, Inverness have got a home game against Hibs,
Mm.
and it's always that kind of what could have been. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
I know.
you
We
know,
obviously
could have
had
been Broomhill Hibs,
you had
you
that
know,
a few seasons ago, when Broomhill were obviously
BSC.
BSC, so could have been
Yeah,
a wee rematch there. I think that's always when you're one of these sort of smaller teams and you do get knocked out of the cup, and then you're sitting watching the next round draw, or you see who gets who in the draw, and if you get like a team like a Hibs or Hearts, Celtic, Rangers, you feel sick because you think, we could have had them, but never mind. There's always next year.
exactly. Yeah, that's it. So that kind of covers the upsets. The Scottish Cup. Now we're gonna do a couple of debates on tonight's show. So the first thing is I was at a women's game yesterday, Sunday, and that was between Pars and West Dyke Thistle. And I saw, I hate seeing players get injured anyway, but it was an injury in the second half. It must have been about, it couldn't even have been 5 minutes in the second half, and then basically bad injury, artificial surface, had to call the ambulance. The game got called off, and I think it's probably just my bad luck or me jinxing it, but it seems to be more and more often that I'm going to watch games on the artificial surfaces, and I'm seeing players get really badly injured. So I've seen a few now, and it just kind of made me think. It's like, I know we've kind of talked about. I totally see the point in having artificial surfaces, especially in Scotland, right, where the weather is awful like 90% of the year.
Yeah,
So we can't all have a nice, grass pitch they can play on. We don't always everyone Not everyone has the ground staff to look after and stuff, right? But it made me think: is it safe to train on artificial surfaces, but potentially dangerous to play on it regularly? Because a lot of these injuries, I'm not sure if I've seen these. It's not like we're talking like leg breaks and stuff. It's just, do you know what I mean? It's like really
no,
bad kind of strains and stuff. And I'm wondering if it's the hard surface that's doing it. Do you know what I mean?
no, it's a really good point and a good sort of topic to bring up. Like obviously, you say you're worried that you've maybe got a wee bit of bad luck of just being at the sort of wrong games at the wrong time. You're obviously at one of our games in pre-season. Um,
Yep.
when we played Morton ladies at Polton Hall, we obviously play on a artificial pitch, and one of the Morton players suffered quite a bad ligament injury. Um, we've obviously got a couple of players out at the moment ourselves who've suffered um, quite bad injuries. We've got one that's got a long-term ankle injury. Our goalkeeper obviously suffered a bad ACL injury, all after playing on artificial surfaces. So it does seem to be more common. I don't know. Obviously, we're talking about sort of women's football here, and especially like in women's football and in youth football, you obviously tend to find that most teams play on artificial surfaces. Um, Kids these days are kind of brought up on playing on it rather than grass surfaces. So there's more and more artificial surfaces in the country, which obviously you said is not necessarily a bad thing because the weather we experience and we're experiencing right now. But I you often always hear as well, like not just in the women's or youth games, in the men's games as well. If you've got like a player that's maybe a wee bit injury prone or coming back from an injury, teams tend to be a bit wary of playing those players on astral pitches,
Yep.
um, so they don't sort of aggravate that injury or sustain a sort of reoccurrence. So I guess it's probably true what you're saying. Like the hard surface of the astro probably doesn't help. Um, it's how we obviously how we stop it and how we make them less frequent is the question. Um, we actually got an email from the Scottish Women's Football Association recently. It was a poll from UEFA. UEFA have they sent out a poll on like ACL and MCL injuries,
Hmm.
not just in women's football but just across the board. They want so they're basically carrying out more research in terms of how these injuries occur, or do coaches and other players have enough knowledge about these injuries to prevent them? So that could be along the lines of in terms of your training sessions, for example, or pre-match warm-ups on artificial pitches. Does do coaches and stuff have enough knowledge in terms of maybe techniques and stuff to that they may be implementing that could potentially increase the risk of those injuries? So I think behind the scenes, it certainly seems like there's more um, sort of investigation done on how we can reduce those types of injuries and increase the knowledge of people in the game and in terms of how we reduce them. But yeah, I don't. I've obviously seen a few myself this season as well, which is never great to see. So yeah, I think it's a good point to raise. It's just how do we stop it from happening and prevent these injuries is a big question, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, because there's obviously a lot of top level clubs, especially in Scotland, are using artificial surfaces. A lot of non-league teams are using artificial surfaces. Um, so yeah, it's just I think gradually over time, we're going to see less and less grass pitches. It's just the way of it, unfortunately. It's so we'll just have to kind of monitor that, But yeah, we'll see what happens
I think
with that.
just on, it's kind of a separate discussion, but like on those
Hmm.
sorts of injuries, like I mentioned our goalie, Erin, she's obviously suffered quite a bad injury. Um, and that was back in September, and she's still waiting on like a date to actually get a scan to find out the full extent of that injury.
Yeah,
Which I know like, it's external sort of circumstances that dictate that, um, which is maybe for another podcast. But aye, with those types of injuries, those sort of waiting times are certainly not helping. Like, could that be aggravating her injury? Like, um, yeah. So I think things like that, and like you see when players certainly like, in the women's game, you don't tend to see it like in the men's game because you've got all the medical staff kind of on scene. But certainly in
yeah,
the women's game or youth games, waiting times for paramedics, for example, and stuff. And I guess it's just ensuring, like, making sure that everyone in these clubs are kind of like first aid trained as well is probably massive. Because potentially with a bad injury like that, don't want to potentially move someone wrong way or get them to stand up and put more sort of pressure on an injury. So it's probably just making sure in the sort of short term, making sure that everyone in sort of clubs have a bit more knowledge on these types of injuries would maybe help in the short term.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. On a lighter note, we did have we were talking about transfers on the other episode, and
Yep.
we were obviously rattling out some big signings, and then who would have thought the next one we got TV Daramola has signed for East Kilbride from Celtic Hearts. So that's one move I did not see coming. It just completely came out of the blue because he started off so well for Celtic Hearts. He was scoring goals
Mhm.
for fun. And I don't know if maybe Celtic Hearts have ran into a little bit of a bit of a slump in their finances and they're trying to offload players. But I honestly can't believe that TV Daramola is moving back down to the Lowland League for now because I still think East Kilbride got a good chance of getting into
Aye,
League Two. When I thought that he was destined to go to a championship team,
100%.
you know what I mean?
I'm sure we had a conversation when he first moved to Kelty, and I made a very, very bold claim that I thought that he would maybe spend a season at Kelty, absolutely smash it in League One. He'd get picked up by even somebody like a Dunfermline or a
Oh
Rafe,
yeah,
and then
yeah,
like I made a bold claim that I thought he could, in the not so distant future, maybe get a Scotland cap. Um, he's still a young lad. So
yeah,
although,
yeah,
as you said, he's making the drop back down to Lone League, but yeah, I'm in the same boat as you. I think East Kilbride will definitely be in the SPFL next season. So I don't think it'll be long before we see him back in the professional leagues. But what a signing! Um, great. I'm looking forward to going to see East Kilbride again. Just for him, I did notice obviously if East Kilbride have signed a lot of players, and every time they sort of put a teaser up to say they're signing somebody, everyone jumps on it and slates them, saying, "Oh, geez, signing somebody else." But you kind of look at the bigger picture. Like I see Mick Kennedy actually tweeted today saying that he's got 5 players who are needing operations. It's the worst injury
yeah,
crisis he's ever had at a club. They have let players go as well recently, like Callum Tappin left for personal reasons. I noticed they've transfer listed Liam Brown, so he's maybe in the same boat. Maybe he's leaving for personal reasons. Ali Roy, Mark Kelly, just to name a few, they've all left recently. So although they're signing a lot of players, they've obviously got a lot of players sidelined for injury and they're letting players go. So I don't think their squad is as large as people are making out, but what an addition that is. He's he didn't really need to say anything else about TV Dynamo. I think everybody knows him by now, and
yeah,
I've no doubt he'll go and rip it up there.
yeah. I wouldn't want to put a guess on how many goals he'll score if he stays fit by the end of the season. He's certainly not going to hit 50 this season,
I
but
wouldn't put it past. I wouldn't put it
yeah,
past him, but nah, it may be a tough ask getting 50. Maybe 25.
it's
We'll maybe
between
half it.
20 and 30. I would say is doable if he gets a good run and he stays injury free. But
Yeah,
again, for anyone that's not seen TV Daramoa, there's an incentive. Just that he was incredible in the non-league. He was great for Celtic Hearts. Um,
and it's like you
just
said,
hasn't.
it's not as if he went up to Kelty and just totally flopped.
Yeah, yeah,
Like he actually
yeah,
went there and started really well. He was scoring goals.
yeah,
So like it's not as if he's flopped and then thought, "Ah, right, I need to take the step back down." He is capable of playing at a higher level, but obviously circumstances have taken him East Kilbride, and it's a massive win for them. Another
yeah,
one I
totally.
noticed just really quickly as well. We spoke about Boness, how they're flying. Boness United,
Mm,
sorry. They've just signed Kieran Mitchell from Raith Rovers.
yeah,
He was
yeah,
obviously saw quite a lot of him at Bonnyrigg last season when he was on loan at us. Came in at a really tough time when we are obviously in a relegation battle, but really good player. Maybe not quite as prolific in front of goal as he would like, but what he'll bring to that National United team is just electric pace. Like defenders will absolutely hate playing against him. So excited to see how he gets on at National United, and that'll be a really good signing.
Yeah, and definitely don't rule them out this season. I know they're 10 points behind, but they are a very good team, and I just wonder the impact that he'll have on top of the other signings we made. And we talked about how good their squad was the other week there. Um, they've still got a chance. They're still in the running there. East Kilbride haven't got this league wrapped up. Bo'ness United, you never know. They could go on an incredible run.
Aye,
And East Kilbride, even with Tiwi, they could potentially drop points. I can't see it personally, but it's football. Things happen. There could be more injuries. You don't know. Do you know what I
exactly.
mean? So,
To be honest, even like winning the league for them is going to take something special. But like even if they could finish second, even top three, it's something to build on for next season.
yeah,
They made great improvements this year if they can keep the sort of same squad, maybe add to that with one or two in the summer, and then go again next season. We could find them really up there challenging.
yep, no, definitely. Yeah, so despite the horrendous weather, there were a handful of games that survived in the non-league across the various leagues and obviously the cup competitions as well. Ryan, what were the standout results for you?
So there wasn't many games on, obviously with the weather. It caused quite a lot of postponements, but there was a few that was on. One in the Premier that stood out, obviously, was Broxburn getting another big win. I say big win in terms of scoreline and obviously their ambitions to win the league. I mentioned last week that the run that they're on, really good. They got a couple of wins in Edinburgh against Tynecastle and Hutchie. They were quite tight in terms of the scoreline, but they got over the line and they got the points. This one was a bit more convincing. Crossgates Primrose 1, Broxburn 4. I noticed there was another 2 goals for Big Errol Douglas. That took him up to 20 goals for the season. So again, we mentioned them last week. Superb player, banging in the goals. And if they do go on and win the league, he's going to be a massive part of why they've how they've went on and achieved that. That win obviously takes him 13 points clear of Musselburgh in second, albeit Musselburgh do have a couple of games in hand. I mentioned obviously Gene Field have got I think 4 games in hand now, so there are other teams that are still sniffing about them, and if they win these games in hand, it'll maybe put a bit of pressure on them. But listen, points on the board are what you're wanting, and Broxburn have got that, and 13 points clear is fantastic. I noticed that was 10 games without a win for Crossgates as well, so they're on a wee bit of a poor run, and um, I think the teams below them have maybe got a game or two in hand as well. So if they win them, potentially you could see Crossgates dropping into the relegation zone. So not a good afternoon for them. So they'll hope to turn that poor run of form around soon. Um, that was really it for the Premier. A team in the first division that we've mentioned a lot, your local team, Rosyth, going away to Blackburn and winning 1-0. Stevie Crawford doing a fantastic job there. And they got beat last week, but they've bounced back, got back to winning ways. Again, that result keeps them sort of in contention for the top three. They're not too far away. But again, similar to what I mentioned about Broxburn, the teams around Rosyth do have quite a few games in hand on them.
Yeah,
So again, they're probably hoping that these teams might slip up. This is it's a difficult time of this year, especially in the lower leagues, when you look at the league tables and the games played are kind of like so disjointed just because of the amount of like call-offs and stuff. So it does make it difficult to get a proper gauge on the league tables. But again, similar to Broxburn, they've got the points on the board, which they'll be happy with. They've got back to winning ways. The teams that have got games in hand will most likely have to try and fit these in at short notice or fit them in midweek, which is not always easy. But yeah, another good win for Rosyth. That was really about it for the leagues. I think Division 2 and Division 3, there was no games, they were all wiped out. There was a couple of cup games. Challenge Cup fourth round. You had Dunbar hosting Cumbernauld Colts. 1-0 win for Colts. So Dunbar unlucky there. No shame in losing out narrowly to Colts, we've obviously spoke about them a lot in the last couple of weeks, how well they're doing. There's a couple of East of Scotland qualifying fourth round games. Gala beat Lunkirk 3-1, but the big one, it looked like an absolute, what's the word, barnstormer. Use that word. I don't know where I plucked that one for, but Trinent 5, Genefield 3. So what a game that sounded. Sounded like quite a close game as well. I think it went like, I can't remember. I've tried to have a wee look there, but I think it went 2-2 at one point, and then I think Trinent went in at halftime 4-2 up. Genefield brought it back to 4-3. And I think Trinent have then got the fifth to kind of kill it off. But that was actually one of the games that I was actually considering going to that. Obviously, I said I went along to the Rose game against Falkirk, but Trinent game was in my thoughts. And I'm sure anybody that did go along to that wouldn't have been disappointed. 8 goals. But that was about it, to be
Yeah,
honest, mate. There wasn't, as we said there wasn't a lot of games on, which obviously makes it a bit difficult to chat about the leagues. But the games that were on, there was a few decent results there.
yeah. I think there's one other game I'll call out, which has probably got lost in amongst all the postponements and stuff. And we were obviously bigging up Dunny Pace the other week there. We've put the podcast curse on them, and Heriot Watt University beat them 5-0 in the King Cup, which is unbelievable, to be honest. I you know, Heriot Watt Uni are a good team, but they're obviously they're in the same league, but they're kind of bottom end of the table, whereas Dunny Pace are riding high, in second. So yeah, not a great day at the office for Dunny Pace there, but further proof that league positions in that league don't really mean much, because
Yeah,
there's good teams at both ends. And Heriot Watt Uni, I haven't seen them once myself. I know they're a dangerous team, so they've just kind of reminded them there. Maybe a warning, albeit in the King Cup, it's not in the league. But just a warning, they do have it in their locker, eh? Do you know what I mean? So
aye. They'll be
um,
they'll be hoping to take that kind of form back into the league campaign. Sure.
yeah, definitely. So that was it, and just a couple other ones. Just one other one actually. There was a Sunday game, which survived the weather. So University of Stirling were playing Cowdenbeath at Fourth Bank, and University of Stirling won that game 4-2. That's in it's actually in the Lowland League Cup
Hmm.
as well. There's so many competitions, it's easy to lose track. But
I know.
yeah, that's again another great result for University of Stirling. But yeah. So apart from that, a lot of games, called off. Obviously the Civil Service Stores, they got a 3-1 win against Edinburgh Uni, so it's another 3 points for them. Um, but yeah, not a lot there. And to be honest, without jinxing it, I think we might be in a similar position this week. And there's going to be a
Aye.
lot of games called off.
Yeah. I have seen, obviously, with teams getting games called off. I think a few teams have arranged friendlies for. Well, I've noticed a lot of friendlies arranged for Tuesday night. I can't see them going ahead, to be honest.
Yeah,
I heard there's another storm on the way. I think this one's called Isha or something, and there's a new one coming tomorrow, apparently.
yeah.
So, aye, that's hopefully it settles down for the weekend and we can actually get a decent football card on for the weekend. And I'm sure we'll come on to later on I'll look ahead to the games. But aye, it's rubbish when, as I say, at this time of the year when didn't really get many games on, and um, it's sometimes it's good in a way when you've got the postponements and then you get kind of midweek games that you weren't really expecting, and it's nice to go along to these midweek games. But I don't think we'll have that this week.
No, not at all. So I mentioned earlier, obviously we had a debate. I want to try and have a couple of quick debates if we can each episode, and stuff we've not really talked about. And obviously, there was a lot of talk about the Conference League proposal, which never kind of went ahead. And one of the kind of big drivers where there were a lot of some of the clubs were pushing for it was around the development of Scottish players and stuff. Um, and obviously we've talked about the B teams, and again that's another key driver. It's about development of young Scottish players. And to be honest, for Hearts B this season, we've seen the benefits, haven't we? So
Mm.
now it just kind of got me thinking. Obviously, the top two clubs in Scotland, the big clubs. I don't need to name them. Obviously, they were playing in the Scottish Cup against fourth and fifth tier opposition, and I mentioned how strong the squad was. Certainly the starting 11 against Bucky Thistle, and it just makes me think. It's like, I get it. They're playing these, smaller clubs. So it would be, Bucky Thistle or Dumbarton, who are, fourth tier League Two, and a lot of the young players are just not getting a chance. And as good as it is, and I'm sure these teams, they want to play against a full strength side. You know what I mean? It just seems like the responsibility is almost lying with the small clubs to help develop these players, because clearly the big clubs are not giving them a chance. I know Rocco Vata came on as a substitute for Celtic, which was a weird one because apparently he's on his way out anyway.
Right.
But if we're talking about young Scottish players, there was literally nothing there. And
Aye.
it just seems to be that kind of thing where I guess the responsibility of developing young players can't just sit with the small clubs. I think the big teams are the ones that are actually pushing for it, need to probably step up and actually, you know, make an example. Because at the moment, the focus is all on winning. And yes, you might be winning football games, but for young footballers and young Scottish footballers, they're not really winning, are they? They're not getting a chance.
No, exactly. I've kind of got a wee bit of a split opinion on this. Um, I had a look at the I had a look at the Celtic and Rangers squads from the weekend. Rangers, I noticed, had Robbie McCrory in goals. Now, I was thinking, oh, that's great, young goalie. Seems to have been around for a while, but I thought he was still relatively young. I think he's 25 now, so he's still young, but no, he's not like 18, 19, 20. I noticed
Yeah.
they did have a couple of younger boys on the bench, I think a 17-year-old, a 20-year-old, but they didn't get on. They won that game quite convincingly. Could that have been an opportunity to give them some game time potentially? Um, Celtic, again, as you said, really strong starting lineup. The boy Vata came on. I noticed young boy Daniel Kelly, young Scottish boy, I think he got 15, 20 minutes. So fair play. I'm getting 15, 20 minutes at Parkhead. But again, looking through the squads, there was a real lack of young Scottish players, which is quite frustrating, especially when you go back to the B teams and you say one of the arguments is they want the B teams to be in the leagues to help develop Scottish talent. And when you've got opportunities like over the weekend and you're really not seeing any at all, getting much game time, it's a bit frustrating. I had a look at the Hearts and Hibs squads. The boy James Wilson at Hearts got half an hour, I think. Brilliant for
Mm.
him. He's been absolutely flying. Seen him score a hat trick the other week there. So good for him. Hibs brought in the young boy Rory Whittaker. Sorry,
Yep,
I
that's
think he
right.
got
Yep.
15, 20 minutes. So again, good for these boys to get some game time in games like that. But could there be more? Aye, possibly. On the flip side, now I'm going to go down south and talk about the FA Cup. But I've felt for a good number of years now the FA Cup has been devalued by your bigger teams not taking it seriously. Like you see a lot of the time, like your Man United's, Man City's, Arsenal's, Liverpool's, whoever, big FA Cup ties, they'll go and put a reserve side out, or a pretty
Yeah,
much like an
yeah,
under 18 side out, which on one hand is brilliant for these players because they're getting the chance to play at that level, but on the other hand, I feel it kind of devalues it a bit, and it's like, how seriously are you taking it, like as a competition? Um, we're not asking like big teams in Scotland to go and completely overhaul your starting 11 and play your under 19s or under 20s, but um, I definitely agree. I would like to see more of these young guys getting a chance. I suppose on the other hand as well, like for these bigger teams, you hit the nail on the head when you were talking about it there. For them, it's about winning, and
yeah,
it's about
yeah,
winning at any cost, really. Like for example, we said it last week. Celtic could have put out a totally weakened team, filled it with young boys, and they probably still would have won that game. But is that a risk that they're willing to take? Same
yeah,
with
yeah,
Rangers.
yeah,
Same with Hearts. Like Hearts and Hibs scraped past Spartans and Forfar with strong teams. So if they took a risk and like, started the boy James Wilson or started the boy Whitaker, for example, and maybe another couple, and then that causes them they get knocked out, and that causes them a place in the Scottish Cup. The backlash they would get for that is unreal. So I suppose in a way it's kind of, can they win? Kind of damned if they do, damned if they don't. Um, yeah, I can see both sides of it, to be honest. Yeah, I would like to see more of the like, young Scottish players get a chance, and these are the types of games when it's probably perfect to give them that opportunity. But at the same time, for these big teams, it's it's about winning, and the risk of not winning the tie. Um, it's not a risk that they're willing to take, clearly.
yeah,
Whereas,
yeah,
so as I
totally.
said, I kind of have a wee bit of respect for them in that sense. Just going back to the FA Cup, because I always kind of I think it can be a wee bit, I don't know, is it a wee bit patronising on the weir teams when they just fill the team with reserves, maybe. But so I do on one hand still like to see teams going out and playing the sort of full strength team, um, even if it's against a lesser team. But yeah, I kind of see both sides of it, to be honest.
Yeah, but from in terms of like the Lowland League and stuff, one of the kind of standouts if we're talking about B teams and stuff, we obviously know, like Mackenzie Kirk's away at Hamilton and stuff, right? But the guy Sandilands, right, at Hearts is phenomenal, right? And he was on the bench against Spartans, and he never came on, and I
Aye.
and I just, uh, that for me is I mean, to be honest, I wanted obviously Spartans to win. I'm a Hibs fan, right? But you think a young Scottish player, what an opportunity for him to come on. But maybe because the game was so tight, they didn't want to risk. Again, they don't want to risk
Aye,
it because
exactly. The
you
game's in the
know,
balance, eh? Like maybe if they go in at half time 3 or 4 nil up, then these young boys will go and get 45 minutes, half an hour. But when you're only 1 nil up, to bring these guys on, it's all about risk at the end of the day. And aye, if Stephen A. Smith goes and puts Sandy Lands, James Wilson, I can't remember who else was on the bench. I don't know if the boy McCluckie was on the bench. I don't think he was. But if he goes and chucks like maybe 2 or 3 of them on and then end up losing that game,
lose his
he's,
job.
he'd probably get
Yeah.
sacked.
Yeah, that's it.
But
So
yeah, no,
yeah, and then
you sort of you did make a good point though. Like obviously, like these bigger teams are pushing for their B teams to sort of be included in the leagues to help develop talent. But when they get an opportunity to kind of do it themselves, a bit reluctant to take it.
yeah, no, that's it. So it's an interesting debate. I would actually be quite interested to hear other people's thoughts on that as well. Um, if anyone wants to leave a comment and let me know if you think there's more that could be done, whether it be actually put in a limit where in certain competitions you need to play X number of players under the age of 21 or whatever. All these things used to happen, but unfortunately, teams find a way around it very
Aye,
quickly. Do you
I'm
know what I
sure
mean?
I might be wrong, but did that not used to happen in the League Cup at some point?
I'm not sure. I think it might have.
Or
Yeah.
didn't they? That's an idea that could potentially be looked at.
Yeah. As I say, there's always a kind of loophole because it could be. I don't think it was always like, say, under Scottish players under 21. It could just be under 21, and
Aye,
then you've got some guy who's phenomenal and he's from somewhere in Europe, and just stick him on, and he already plays in the league anyway. So you've
aye,
met the criteria. It's things like that. Do you know what I mean? There's always kind of ways around it, but I do think. I mean, certainly for like strikers and stuff, something which Scotland are, at a national level, they're struggling a wee bit. Like young strikers and stuff, you'd think they try and push for it, especially in these competitions. You're playing a team that's quite a few tiers below you. Do you know what I mean?
yep,
Like I don't know, but then again, if my last point on that, how gutty would you be if you were playing for Bucky Thistle and you didn't get to play against guys like Kyogo and stuff because
aye.
they didn't even put them on the bench. They just literally just put out the B team. Do you know what I mean? You'd be devastated. Do you know what I
Exactly.
mean?
That kind of goes back to my point about the FA Cup as well. Like,
Yeah.
if you're if you're a player that's playing, I don't know, like League Two or National League, whatever it's called these days, and you draw Man City, and you're thinking, I'm going to be playing the likes of Haaland and Rodri's and all these guys,
Mm.
and they put like a reserve team out. I am one hand, you're thinking, hey, we might only get beat 5-0 instead of 10-0 today, but how
Yeah.
good, what an experience it would have been to play against these types of players. So I definitely there's there's kind of two sides to it, isn't
Yeah, it definitely is. So yeah, that's
there?
the debating done for this week. So let's kind of see. We'll discuss what games we think we might be going to this week because
Aye.
even if it's set in stone, that I don't know if any games are going to survive this week. But yeah, I'll let you kick off. What games do you think you have planned this week?
The one so similar to yourself, I usually like when you get to like the end of one month, I kind of look at the fixtures for the next month and kind of plan out my fixtures and see where I'm going to go. And the one that I'd sort of penciled in for this weekend was Pennycook Tynecastle.
Yep.
Um, Lewis Colt, the Pennycook manager, a few weeks ago, replied to one of my posts. I can't remember what game I was going to, but I think I was sort of debating where to go, and he sent me a nice reply, basically saying, "Get yourself up to Pennycook, and I'll get a beer with you after the match," and that, which was top man. So, thought I definitely took up to Pennycook soon. So that's the one I've penciled in. But I, like you said, chances actually getting up there this weekend are looking slim. So, fingers crossed. But yeah, if the weather plays ball, hopefully I'll get along to Montgomery Park and see Pennycook against Dyna. What about you?
Yeah, so we'll see. So I had my eye on potentially the Friday night game at East Ainsley Park again. Sorry, so it's Hearts B against Cumbernauld Colts, two teams top end of the table. But I work in Edinburgh on Fridays, and I don't know if I want to risk the trains getting stuck, and then I end up getting stuck in Edinburgh. So I'm probably going to dodge it, to be honest, because of that. I just can't take the risk. So Saturday, uh, artificial playing surface. But yeah, Recife versus Preston Athletic.
Good one.
Recife are still playing at the Fleet Grounds at the moment. I have been going to Petrivi Fields the last couple of weeks, for the women's games to watch the Pars. And I have been keeping a close eye on that new pitch, which
Mm.
I'm actually quite looking forward to them moving across because some of the crowds that they're getting in that kind of cage for the amateurs and the noise that are making the atmosphere is amazing. So I I don't know when Forsyth get the keys to move in, but I'm hoping it's sooner rather than later. I've got nothing against the Fleet Grounds. I go a lot.
Mm.
It's just up the road, but I kind of want them to move to Petrivi. But anyway, they're playing Preston Athletic, a club I've got a lot of time for. I'm good friends with the committee members and I know some of the players and the manager and stuff. So I get on well with Preston Athletic. So yeah, just an opportunity to catch up with them. And if the game goes ahead, then it'll be great to watch Preston Athletic play again. And after seeing Recife again recently against Lochor Welfare, quite looking forward to seeing them as well. So, it's my local team against a team who aren't as local for me now, but a team that I
Yep,
like a lot. Do you know what I mean? So, I'll be probably relatively neutral, to be honest. I like both teams, but it's not a bad way to be. So,
aye.
yeah, we'll see if it goes ahead.
Hopefully that'll go ahead. That'll be a good game. It was a good point you mentioned there. I should maybe start looking at games that are on a 3G pitch, in case Pennycook isn't on. And to be honest, Broxburn Hockey is an appealing one. That'll be a good game. You've also got Leaf Athletic against Whitehill Welfare. I just saw, and that actually just reminded me. I don't know if you've seen this, but Leaf, and they've done this before, I'm sure, but their matchday hospitality package,
Unreal.
the
Yeah,
value is unreal. I've just pulled it
yeah,
up on my phone here. I saw it earlier and I totally forgot about it, so I'm glad I just remembered. But so Leaf Athletic against Whitehill Welfare this weekend at Meadowbank. Your entry and your seat in the stand, obviously. Pre-match hospitality suite access, which includes 4 drink tokens. So that's beers, wines, soft drinks. So you could enter at the match in 4 pints, snacks, and then a post-match buffet at the Hoppy, which I know you're a fan of
Hoppy,
that
yeah,
boozer.
superb.
£16.
Yeah. So if you
Like,
think about it, right, it's like £7 to get in, just
aye,
without all that extra stuff.
exactly.
£7, and that is unbelievable. You know what I mean?
Unreal.
Nine
16
pound, you're getting 4 beers and food, snacks.
and then a buffet.
It's it's just
It's incredible. Like,
incredible. Yeah,
like
yeah,
as you said, it's £7 to get in. Like, how many folk are just going to go, "Come on, I'm just going to pay £16 just for the fact that I'll get 4 pints and a scran." Like, fair play to Leaf. As I said, I don't think that's the first time they've done that. I'm sure they've done it before, and it was really reasonable. I can't remember if it was that cheap, but certainly £16 for that is fantastic. So really hope their game's on. They get a good crowd. And to be honest, like, if there's a lot of games called off in and around sort of Edinburgh and that, people might see that, and go, "Oh, I fancy going to a game. I'll go to that and take them up on the hospitality offer." So if anyone is struggling for a game this weekend, I would certainly recommend that. It sounds like the best £16 you'll spend all weekend.
yeah. No, and I always say that when they do, when any club puts on hospitality, when they put on some a good offer and that, the uptake is just so important. Do you know what I mean? It's like you're getting a bargain, but if enough people do it, the club actually make enough money off it. Do you know what I
I
mean?
know. Yep,
So and it only works if there's enough uptake as well. If only a couple of people do it,
it's not worth their while.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, fair play to Leaf Athletic. I done hospitality once. I might have mentioned this before. If not, it's fine. When it sponsored the game against Dunny Pace, and there was about I think it was me and about 5 mates. Like there were 6 of us, and we went to the Hoppy after the match. I think before and after the match, and then obviously we went to the week in a hospitality bit upstairs in Meadowbank, and it is brilliant. And like Jer and the guys at Leaf Athletic, they make you feel so welcome. And I definitely need to go back to a Leaf Athletic game at home because I've not been in a while.
Playing
But
Rosyth on a Friday night soon.
yeah, yeah. Is it Friday night game?
Friday night, Leaf Rosyth. I'm sure it's. I think it's in a couple of weeks' time. Sure.
Wow. Yeah, that's
Here we are, 2nd of February. Friday the 2nd of February. Leaf versus Rosyth.
that's class. I'll need to make a decision because I think Rafe Rovers are playing that night as well. Rafe Rovers against Airdrie Challenge Cup. But yeah, I might need to flip a coin on that. If I'm working in Edinburgh, I might be swayed to go to Leaf Athletic, but I'll see how it goes. If I'm working from home, I'll probably do Rafe Rovers.
No.
But yeah, we'll see how it goes. But yeah, so yeah, hopefully the the storms calm down a bit and we get some actual decent football and stuff. Any final points for this week's show, Ryan?
I just a couple of things. Well, I remember just I obviously mentioned that I was hoping to go to Pennycook. I'd seen it was quite sad news during the week that their secretary Neil Gordon passed away. So just on behalf of the both of us, just a wee message to Pennycook to condolences from us. Just on, you mentioned the storm as well. We've seen, obviously, I think today, I've seen a couple of clubs that have posted saying that they've had some damage to their grounds and stuff because of the storm. Linton Hotspur, Glasgow United were two that I've seen. So obviously it can't be helped. It's the weather. We live in Scotland, but hopefully, fingers crossed, these teams can, whether it's folk in the local community or maybe other clubs round about them, they can get some support for repairs and stuff. And hopefully the storms over the next day or two don't add to the repair bills and the damage and stuff. So yeah, not nice to see, but especially like Linton Hotspur as well. We mentioned team just sort of starting out since moving up the ranks into the East of Scotland setup. So when they're just kind of finding their feet, and you mentioned last week how good a setup is there, so it's not nice to see like all the damages and stuff and the repairs that they're going to need to go through. But fingers crossed they can get that sorted.
Yeah, yeah. I saw the damage on that with Linton Hotspur. It's quite sad actually. It's all new fencing. It's everything they've only put up, before the start of the season, and it's been damaged. So hopefully the repair bill's not too big, and I'm sure the local community and the fans will help them sort that out, and they'll get it sorted. But it's just unfortunate. The weather can't be helped sometimes, but it's
Aye.
yeah, it's just as I say, there's a lot of damage, eh? So yeah, hopefully that works itself out. Don't think there's anything else for me to call out this week. But yeah, thanks again to everyone that's been obviously engaging with us, whether it be liking or sharing the podcast, spreading the word. Again, I've had kind of more kind of feedback on a kind of personal level from people I've spoken to, which is absolutely brilliant. Is much appreciated, and as I say, we want to talk about things you want to hear about as well. So if anyone has any suggestions or things you want us to debate on the show, just let us know. If there's any guests you want us to bring in, just let us know. Obviously, within reason. In the non-league world, we can only get so many people. But if there's anyone from like the east, let us know, and we'll consider it for the future. But yeah, thanks for everyone so far, and yeah, hopefully everyone has a good week of football, and yeah, we'll catch you all next time.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers, guys.